here's my strategy next session. I'm going to work with other conservatives, and we're going to put them on the boards, and we're going to put them on record. And if I can at least get this to a vote, if I can at least get an agenda in committees, possibly get it to the floor, let's find out who the real conservatives are. And let's find out who the people are who are insincere about their values and principles. And I think then we can make progress. You know, Don spoke earlier about these efforts to give illegal aliens in-state tuition. I will tell you that every year in the Florida House of Representatives, for the last 8, someone has filed a bill to do that here in Florida. Essentially to make us a sanctuary state for higher education for illegals. And to me, it's nonsensical to say that we would charge someone from Alabama or Georgia 4 times as much to go to one of our state schools as someone that's here illegally. That doesn't make any sense. And every year, that bill is filed by a Republican. By a Republican. And each year, we have to beat it back, and it gets tougher and tougher each year. So we're going to keep the fight up. But I don't just need you to help me get good bills passed, like the bureaucrat bill, like our opt-out bill. I need you to help me beat some of these bad bills, because we continue to see bad ones come up. And if you don't speak out and let your voice be heard, then it's just, you know, Representative Gaetz, no longer Representative Grady, one member of the Conservative caucus left. There's another area where I was not as successful as I wanted to be, and that's the area of social responsibility. Social responsibility. And I think that now more than ever, you know, I've always said I'll probably be a better state representative for you in tough times than I ever would have been in good times. Because your job as a state representative in good times is to build buildings and bring stuff home and lots of new programs. And that's not really what I get passionate about. I get passionate about limited government, about providing for innovation and economic freedom by getting government out of the way. And so I think it's actually a really exciting time to be a conservative. Because with limited government resources, we're going to be able to see bad programs and bad expenditures of money we'll be able to get rid of. So here's one of those ideas that I have. If someone in our state, one of the biggest strains we have on business is the cost of workers' compensation. And so here was my bill. I didn't think it was very crazy. I just had a bill that said that if you file a workers' compensation claim because you fell off of a telephone pole or you cut yourself when you were being the line cook in a restaurant, you file your claim. Along with your claim, you have to take a drug test. Because if you were stoned or hyped up on something, and that's why you fell off of the telephone pole, I don't think the taxpayers ought to be able to subsidize you staying home. And my trick, I'll confess it, my trick was if I could get that bill moving, I wanted to make it work if you file for any unemployment benefit in the state of Florida. If you want to go file for unemployment benefits, you ought to have to take a drug test. Because that's probably one of the reasons you're unemployed. And if you want to go get a job, you're probably going to have to take a drug test. So if people are able to stay on drugs, then they won't be able to ultimately be gainfully employed. That bill did not receive a single hearing in the Florida House of Representatives this year. Not one. So I'll be back next year with that bill, and I'll need your help calling and emailing the committee chairman to get these things on the agenda. So Brenda cut me off at a certain time, so I really just wanted to tell you, that it's the honor of my life to be your advocate on these issues. It's not always easy. We don't always get what we want, and at times we're going to have to settle for something less than full and complete success in some areas. But that should not mean that we can ever be complacent. We have to be just as angry, just as vigorous, and just as committed as those on the left. Because I'll tell you, they're that way. And we have to match them step for step with that enthusiasm. And I'll tell you this, if I can count on you, you'll have my back. I'll have yours as your state representative. So thank you all very much for letting me come chat with you. I'm happy to take any questions that you have. Yes, sir, you're the first one.
Yeah. Assuming an abortion runs something around $200, how many of the abortions are for people on welfare or public assistance? I've read over the years that one baby birth through 18 years old is something in the range of $250,000 in public assistance. Would it be cheaper to give them the abortion?
Well, I don't evaluate the sanctity of life in terms of dollars and cents.
How many Thomas Edison were we killing versus Genghis Khan gang leaders?
Well, I respect that view. I don't share it.
And nevertheless, it's $250 million
Well,
Can I make a comment?
sure, go ahead.
The people, the woman Sanger who started family planning.
Margaret Sanger.
Yes, Margaret Sanger. She espoused eugenics because she wanted. Her goal was the destruction of the family and the mass extermination of people who were less.
I read the Nazi books,
Yeah.
I know about it.
And this is where they're headed. It's not that these people want an occasional abortion in extreme circumstances. They want it to be extensive and to be accepted as normal and commonplace. And that's what people are. That's what we're fighting
I
against.
would be perfectly willing to go for a mandatory birth control system for people on public assistance. When you've got 7 kids with $400 each, that's a lot of tax money.
Well, and actually, one of the bills that has been passed in Texas that I think we ought to copy in Florida. Right now, you can have an unlimited number of children, and all of them then qualify you for certain types of food stamps and benefits. In Texas, they say, now I think the number should be lower than this, frankly, but they say after 5, your 6th child. Well, look, nowhere else is there anyway, okay? Nowhere else is there anyway. They say after 5, the 6th one, you don't qualify anymore. So, look, there are people that do abuse the Medicare system, AFTC, for financial gain. I'd like to see that number, considerably lower, where if you start having kids just to make money, then you no longer get to sell yourself back to taxpayers. But where we do not agree, and where I will not agree, is that we evaluate whether or not an abortion is good public policy based on the economic conditions of the parents.
One mistake. Then you cut up. One mistake.
You get it just wrong.
Look, if they would let me start at 5, I could whittle it down from there. Yes, sir.
First of all, I'm real proud to have voted for you in that special member election. I think you did a wonderful job. Especially. Have you thought about on some of these issues like you just brought up, things you'd really like to accomplish in your top 3 or 4? And have you talked with like Bertie Thompson, Panama City, and 101.1 American Talk Radio and stuff like that? He's really good about getting local issues out in front of a pretty broad audience here in Panhandle, Tallahassee and Pennsylvania. And that might be a good way to get, every morning on the way to work, every night on the way home, I listen to these guys, and when they say something, when I hear Mark Levin say something, I hear Bertie Thompson in Panama City say something, I'll write it down when I'm stopped at a light, and I'll get home, and I'll call a senator, or I'll send an email, or I'll write a letter, or I'll call Washington, and give some staff, both barrels, about things that I'm hearing. And I think you might reach a lot of people quickly if you've got some airtime, so to speak. Democrats that are sort of, scared about seeing their country go too far and really want to make a difference. Republicans, of course, most of them, and then, of course, all the conservatives. People that are trying to do the right thing. That's 99.97 people.
It's an excellent suggestion, and I'm going to take it. I'll say this. I go on Ken Walsh's show. He's called me since I've been here, actually. I go on Ken's show regularly. I used to go on Jerry Melvin's show when he had his. But you're right. I need to expand beyond that because we need to continue to build our coalition.
You might get flooded with inputs from people saying, "Hey, God bless you, Matt. Proceed full speed ahead." And then if there are things you can put on your website now that you start to get, tens of thousands more, inputs, then we can start really building some critical mass.
Yeah, that's helpful. Very helpful. I've written it down. Ron?
We've talked about it amongst ourselves already tonight, but I want to ask you, what is the most effective way for Tea Party individuals and groups to affect decision-making unelected official?
Well, with Chairman Galvano, who wasn't going to allow the Healthcare Freedom Act to go to the floor, calls and emails, and then actually, in some, if you've really got somebody who's going to be a barricade